Let me go ahead and start over. I want to share with you a technique that I discovered a few years ago working with a fellow publisher, SIPA publisher, who had invented this approach, and I helped him refine it. I looked at it and I said, there are some opportunities to improve this system in a couple of ways, and I worked with him to do it. And in the course of doing that, I became very familiar with the technique, and we were able to dramatically increase results to it. And then I've had the opportunity to take this technique and use it with another publisher, and that experience led me to the results of increasing readership for this publication by about 73%, which was in the little blurb that you may have read promoting this session. So the idea is very simple, but in order to do it, I'd like you to bear with me while I give you the background on it and the fundamentals, because you can't, just by understanding the technique, you can't just drop in and use it unless you have everything teed up so that it will work. This is all dependent on, so we're in a content business, and we've heard some very interesting presentations this morning about content. And interestingly, I kind of took notes in the keynote this morning. Tony Uphoff, kind of at the end of that presentation, he said, I'm not interested in the news as a business model. I have no use for the news. I forget where I got the news. The news is, in essence, a commodity. He said, I'm interested in actionable information. Tell me how to get my job done. And I thought that was interesting, especially for a guy who's had such tremendous success with data. And you think of data as not having value per se, or that it is advisory per se, yet he came out foursquare in favor of information that is fundamentally useful to helping people get a job done. And then I just came out of the session with Tom Cintorino and Crystal Copage, who talked about making information not necessarily look great. It can look great, but the fundamental value is that you make it, that it is practical, that it's how-to, that it has wisdom, knowledge, and helps you do your job better. And that's a big part of what I want to talk about before I kind of reveal this technique and lead up to it. I was on the beach with most of you the other night for our dinner, and I had a conversation with some colleagues here, and one of them is an editor at a fairly substantial business member, and I was talking about something that we had discussed on Monday morning about memberships, which was the whole idea of, and one of the colleagues was saying, it's hard to implement the ideas that you shared about membership if you're a news-driven business. And I said, yeah. And the editor said, well, what else is there? And I said, well, it's when you, instead of giving somebody news, you tell them what they can do with the news. And that the news item itself has no value. It is valueless. It is a feature, but telling somebody what that news means to them and how they can use the news, that's the key to it. And I said, for example, if you said company A buys company B, that has no value to the reader. You would have to tell them, and what that means is that certain players within the industry should be looking for this opportunity or that opportunity. And the editor said, well, we don't do that. Who am I to tell them what to do? And I thought, well, that's your job, in my humble opinion. So that's kind of the background for what I want to talk to you about, kind of leading up to this technique. And I think you'll find that once we get that all lined up and focus on your content, because that's what people are buying. No matter what kind of marketing we do, I've done a lot of marketing packages for publishers, we tell them about the content. I mean, that's what we're selling. And we're also especially selling content when it comes to renewal time. If they are not reading it, if they're not using it, they're not going to renew. But so what we want, what a marketer wants in terms of content is, I don't want to tell them that they're getting news. I want to tell them what the news is going to do for them, right? What's the result going to be? So that's kind of the background. Let's move through these slides here, and with your help, we will get to the end of this within 45 minutes, and I'll reveal this technique, which is pretty simple. So, Greg, I hope you see this. Greg was complaining about some sessions the other day, and he said the speaker should tell you what they're going to tell you and tell you what the takeaways are, and then at the end they should tell you what they've told you. They should give you the takeaways again. I actually had done this before I talked to you, Greg. So, two principles here. Always give customers the kind of content they crave. And then secondly, continuously remind them that you're giving them compelling content. Those are the kind of the two principles that are going to take us through the next few minutes. So what difference does editorial make in the success of your business? I've just said it. This is why people come to us. It's why they buy, read, and use our publications, and it's why customers purchase from us again, renew, or they don't, okay? So we, of course, seek a repeat purchase business. We depend on that. So customers buy our products. They want something to change. Just think about that. And I would say this to the editor on the beach. Customers want something to change. What do they want to change? What do your customers want to change? They spend money. They're expecting something to happen. What do they expect to happen? They want to either transform their material reality. Why do they want to change their material reality? Why do they want to do that? What's the problem? What are they seeking materially? It could be, maybe I have some examples here. They could want to increase sales. They would want to lose weight. They could lower their tax bill, beat the competition, reduce costs, boost response to their direct mail. Those are the things that people want. People do not buy your content because it is content. They are not buying facts from you, generally. Okay? And so we want to make a difference in their lives. They also want to change their emotional reality. Most of us don't think about this a lot, like, oh, I'm writing a newsletter on human resources, as Adam does, and we try to give them practical information about new laws and how to respond to those. But I think deep inside, and it's certainly reflected in the marketing that you guys do, Adam, that we're trying to give these people a sense of confidence that they know what they're doing and that they can represent their department to upper management, that they're under control if a new law has been passed, or if some employees are bad actors within the organization. They want the confidence to walk in and solve that problem, right? So there's a material thing they want to change. They want to subdue or control the bad actor, but they also want to have a great feeling about it. I did the right thing for the company, and I'm a leader in our business, and I know how to handle problems. So there's the emotional part of it. These are some of the important reasons that people, so they want security, confidence, superiority. They want to feel like a winner. They want to feel accomplished. They want to feel invincible. Whatever those emotional benefits are, I think it's helpful to think about how does our content do that, and the fact that that's what we're trying to do. As you do an editorial audit, you would say, what's the material thing we want to change when the customer reads an article? And what's the emotional thing that should change when a customer reads an article? And I want to bring it down to the article, not some vague thing about the publication, but because the publication is really just a collection of minimum information units, right? It's the information units. When I get that newsletter or I get that that information unit online, I absorb that. What is supposed to happen? That little article about company A acquired company B. What is supposed to happen there? And the thing is, and the problem is, that most editors are not thinking about either of those things in many cases. Unless you have just abjectly a how-to publication. That's all we do, is how to do this. But most publications are really more of a blend of, and I think, again, Adam, your publications are a good example of, there is a news component to it because things are changing, but there's also a sense of, well, what do we do about it? Because we're not going to publish an article just about a new law. We're going to tell you what that means in the context of your business and in the context of your life. And getting editors to think about content in that way is not always that easy, evidenced by my conversation with the very bright editor on the beach the other night. So I would just, this is an exercise if we were, so I have a workshop that I do that's 8 hours for editors and publishers, and we talk all about this, and we kind of answer some of these questions, but I would just challenge you to name what are the top 3 material results that your customers seek, and that should be part of the editorial mission, is to meet those needs and deliver those results, and then name the top 3 emotional rewards that your customers seek. And by the way, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this when we began. If you would like, I see people taking copious notes, and please do that. But I'd be happy to send you this entire presentation. If you just give me your business card before we leave, I'll have it to you today. So you won't have to download it. So our promise to meet customers' needs is the benefit we provide. I think most all of us would agree that we're in the business of providing benefit. I look at a lot of publishers' marketing materials and they say, top benefits for you. It's the subhead. And then underneath it, it says 12 issues a month, 48,000 entries in the database. Well, of course, these are not benefits, right? Those number of issues is not a benefit. In fact, an issue is not a benefit. An issue is a feature, it's a thing. It's an objective thing. A benefit is subjective, frankly. It's the idea that we put in the customer's head, and we say, keeps your feet dry. It's a shoe, that's the feature. It keeps your feet dry, that's the benefit, right? So they either believe it or they don't. But you don't pick this up and say, oh, it's a device that keeps your feet dry. Well, it's a shoe feature, keeps your feet dry, benefit, okay? So what is a benefit? A benefit is really important, and poor Adam, you've probably heard this about 17 times over the last couple of years, but I think it's a driver of a lot of my presentations because it's it's a universal truth, let's put it that way, not to be too high flown, but a benefit is the promise to make a positive, tangible change in somebody's life. That's what we need to be promising. And in order why am I telling you this? Just to remind you, you can't use this amazing technique that I'm going to tell you about unless you believe this, okay? Does anybody disagree with anything so far? Are you with me? We're going to go just step by step here. So it's the promise to make a positive, tangible life in somebody's change. Keep your feet dry, keep you out of trouble with the Department of Labor, right? going to make you feel like a pasha in your human resources department. You know, whatever the promise is, there has to be a positive change in somebody's business or in their life. So, what primary benefit does our content, does your content provide to customers? That is the brand promise. That would be the overarching, not the promise of the article, but the promise of every article. What is it? Is it that we provide clear, timely reporting of industry news, which I think is what the editor on the beach would have said? Yes, that's my job, that's what I do, and I do a very good job of it. Thank you very much. Is it that we provide astute, learned analysis of key issues in our industry? Oh, I love that analysis. Or is it that we help customers achieve better results and feel great? And of course, I think you know at this point what my answer would be and what I'm recommending to you. It's also, again, the key to the technique that I want to talk about in just a few minutes. So a brand is how customers perceive our company, and we have to ask ourselves, how do we want our customers to perceive our brand? I think we want them to perceive the brand in terms of the benefit that they get from it. So how should they feel about us? How should they describe us? You know, I was in this other session the other day, and this woman, Crystal Kopach, showed her slide, and all the alignment had just gone crazy on the screen, and she went, oh my God, it didn't look like this last night on my computer. I will say the same about mine there. That's quite strange. But anyway, I think you can read it. How should they feel about us? How should they describe us? And 4 questions that we need to ask when we're creating specialized content. Why do our customers need to buy this? What problem are we trying to solve? How can they apply this information to their daily activities or strategies? What lessons can customers learn from this news or analysis? How does it help them improve? And where does this content fit into your company's overall vision and marketing strategy? And I would say that these are certainly questions that we as publishers want to ask ourselves from a strategic standpoint. What are we doing here, in essence? But these are questions that editors need to understand, and they need to have, need to have alignment in terms of what the answers to those questions are, and editors need to be producing content that answers these questions. You know, I'm solving a need. Company A acquired company B. What do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do with that, right? They need to know that there has to be an answer to that. What lessons can they learn, etc. If customers seek positive results, what questions do they ask of our content? This is kind of the other side of the coin. The article arrives, right? You know, it doesn't matter what the package is. It's a front page article. It's an article that comes by itself in an email. What is the customer asking of us? And what is the customer asking of the editor? You know, is it well written? Is it in pyramid style? Does it have all the facts? Well, they might be aware of those things subliminally, but that's not what they're looking for, right? That's kind of that's table stakes. What's in it for me? How does this apply to me? How can this help me? What valuable lessons can I learn here? That's nice. Which of my problems does this solve? And how can I turn this into an opportunity? These are the things that are going through the customer's mind. And how does this create an advantage for me? So what are the greatest mistakes specialized information editors make? Well, they don't do that stuff. They believe they're primarily supposed to write or publish about their subject matter. And again, I refer to the conversation I had with the editor. That's what I cover this industry. That's what I do. Isn't that enough? You know, and we're an award-winning publisher. We win awards because we cover the industry. And what I'm representing to you, certainly in terms of the magical technique I want to tell you about, it doesn't make it at all. It's not going to help you get there. But I would just go so far as whether you use this technique that I'm going to share with you or you don't, you're going to have a far more successful business if you're able to answer these questions and your editorial group is aligned behind it. And then when your marketing makes promises to potential customers, they actually get that from your content. So a lot of editors just believe they're primarily supposed to cover a subject matter and industry. They believe that readers find their subject matter inherently interesting. You know, our editors are so into the industry. It's so fascinating, and they should believe that. They should be into it and excited by the industry and feel that it is vibrant and important. All those things are great qualifications for an editor, but it's not enough. And they fail to make the content about the customer, and this is really a key point in my theory, is that our editorial should not be about the thing, should not be about the industry per se, but it should be about the reader, right? It's not company A acquires company B, it's that there's important developments afoot that are going to affect you in this way. For example, company A acquired company B. There's a lesson here. And we need to be prepared for the next acquisition that looks like this, right? So that takes editorial to a completely different level. Your content should be about the customer. Another universal truth, we have two of them today. They fail to address customers' identified needs, and that's really the heart of it. So what things don't promise transformation in people's lives? Learning, not a benefit. Updates, not a benefit. Discovering, optimizing, insights, trends. Analysis, realizing. News, understanding. Information, knowledge. Exposure, integrating. Flexibility, reporting. And I don't want to put too fine a point on these things, except that it's not to say that knowledge is bad. It's great, but it's just not sufficient. It's not enough knowledge. It's great. You know, knowledge is a synthesis of facts, let's just say, but it doesn't take you anywhere if that's all you do is provide knowledge. You have to tell people what to do with it. So what's our brand promise? What big promise can we make to a customer who buys from us? What exciting experience do we try to create? What strong emotions do we hope to provoke? And what do we aim to change? This is all follows what we've been talking about. Greg, do you have the time?
Yes, it's 19 of 12.
All right. So we finish at noon, right? Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so here are some sample brand promises from my travels around industries. So Prentice Hall publishes books for pre-K to 12 education. We help teachers go further using advanced learning resources and courseware. And of course, those learning resources are features, but we help teachers go further. We improve their educational effectiveness, and we inspire both teachers and students. So we have both the material and the emotional, right? We give them course materials that help them teach more effectively, get better results, and we also inspire them. We give them a feeling of, we lift them up emotionally. Beverage Digest, we give beverage industry executives advance warning of new trends. So this is a kind of a news-driven publication. Timely analysis of major players' financial performance and insights into industry success stories, all to help our readers win more competitive battles, which makes them feel like tougher, more capable competitors. The beverage industry, this is non-alcoholic beverages, very rough and tumble industry, fighting for shelf space in grocery stores, and it's really, I think, a bunch of guys out there on the streets fighting for market share in the tenths of percents of market share. So this publication has to not just give people facts, it has to make them better at what they're struggling to do. And then the tax reduction letter, much easier. We help solo business owners reduce their taxes by thousands of dollars a year using perfectly legal strategies that most CPAs are not aware of, which makes readers feel smarter and richer than the average business person. And those are pretty clear. If you have that kind of publication, all of this falls right into place. But I think the other two are a little more nuanced. So for your brand promise, I would suggest, and again, if you're going to make an exercise of this, get editors involved in answering this question. We help who, what is the target audience, transform themselves, transformation. Every article is meant to transform the reader. It's kind of profound when you think about it, and that puts certainly a very heavy burden on whoever's creating that content, enabling them to meet certain pressing material and emotional needs, whatever that is, fill in the blank, which we do by giving them news, analysis, whatever, however you want to define what your product is. But those other things are more important than the actual objective, we'll call it the content artifact, not as important. It's what that is supposed to do. If we're giving customers content they crave, how do we tell them about it? Now we're going to ease into this technique. There are two ways you can tell them about it. One, every information unit, again, I hearken back to the Garrett Klein's session of a few months ago, very influential on me, should sell itself from the outset. Every information unit that you send out to a customer should sell itself. Okay? It should tell people why they should read it. Okay? And that has to do with how do you write it. I'll show you some examples of that. And then the second thing is, and that depends on first the head, depends on if you send it alone, what the subject line is. Certainly the headline of the article should make it sound like, this is really important, it's going to make a difference in your life. The headline should say that, not company A acquires company B. That could be in the headline. Nothing wrong with news in the headline, but why is that important? Shakes up the industry, the industry will never be the same again. Your job will never be the same again because A acquired B. And the lead paragraph explains that in more detail. We're much less concerned about the A acquires B than why that's important. And in my recommendation is that all editorial tell why it's important from the very outset, headline, lead paragraph. And then second, market your information units, your content, continuously to your existing readers. You sold them a subscription, you're sending it to them in digitally or by print, and they're not reading it. Or they're not reading it as they could, let alone using it, because, I published print newsletters for many years, and we know that people get them, they got them in the mail, and they just stacked up on people's desks. They saved them. They had 12, 15 issues sitting on their desk, unread. Okay, if people don't read your publication, they're not going to renew it, right? Which means they're gone, they're lost. You've lost them. And we were sending out 24 issues a year. 24 issues a year, and they're not reading them. They are not going to renew that publication. Which is not going to happen. I'm talking about an entire newsletter with 8 or 10 articles in it. They're not reading any of them. 80, 100 articles. They never even saw the articles because they never cracked the publication open. So we got to market information units ongoing. Don't take for granted because they paid for it, they're going to read it. They're not. Most will not. Okay, so Adam, I owe this to you guys. Beautiful, genius, it's great. So this is from one of Adam's publications from Business Management Daily. The headline was, Stop the Revolving Door, 15 Questions to Ask Employees in Their First 60 Days. Recruiting, hiring, and training new employees can eat up a manager's time. The last thing a manager wants to do is start the process all over again because that new hire just stood up and walked out the door after 3 months. Problem, right? That's the problem. The structure of this lead, and I would say, I don't know if you have this is codified, but you use this approach a lot, and it's venerable, it works really well. Start out with the problem. We make a big promise in that headline, stop the revolving door. It's not going to happen anymore. We're going to stop that. And we have a solution. 15, numeral, 60 days, numeral. It's that in itself is magical. We got a big problem. Solution: to avoid repeating that time-consuming process, it's important to talk to new employees soon after they arrive to uncover potential problems that can cause turnover. Make it a point to meet with new hires within the first 60 days. Solution: problem, solution, problem, solution. What's the problem? Company A acquires company B. What's the problem? What's going on? What's the context? Why is that important? I think the readers would like to know, or they're not going to read it. I'm not going to read all of these to you, but 9 strategies to transform your patients into a referral machine. This is for dentists, and it's basically the same thing. Competition is increasing. Your existing patients are the key to your ongoing success. Problem, solution. Problem, solution is not going to work in every case, particularly in news-driven publication, but the sensibility of problem and solution. Why is this important? What's going on in the industry that is so momentous and that will affect you? How are we going to help you cope with that? So if customers don't see your content, they won't read it or use it. So here is the technique that I want to share with you. And I'm going to give you the technique right now, and I'm going to show you some examples of it. The whole idea is, and I got this from the tax reduction letter, Murray Bradford, I credit as the inventor of this. He comes out with a monthly digital publication, used to be print, comes out, he has 8 articles in every issue, and he posts that on the first day of every month. And what he used to do is just send somebody an email and saying, oh, your new issue is there. And eventually evolved into this technique, which is he sends out an email, copywriter written, not me, hires a copywriter who does this every month, reads every article, and writes an email that goes to every single customer. Every single subscriber gets this email selling the article. Why it is so important to read. And off to the side, let me just add, he also sends that email, just with a slight little twist at the end of it, to every prospect, to every single person on his list. And he's got hundreds of thousands of names. So he sends it to his, 10,000 subscribers, and he sends it to 300,000 prospects. The subscriber is invited to click and go to the article. Just read the article. It's really important. It's really beneficial. And the same message to the prospects, just click on the link and sign up for a free trial. Sells trial subscriptions by selling every single article. And here's the thing I would ask you, and I'm going to give you some examples, but here's the thing I would ask you. If you had to open your publication or choose a list of the information units from your publication and your current, whatever's current, the newest stuff, and just pick one at random, and you pull that out and you say, all right, now write me some copy about why somebody should read that. How would that go? Would you know how to sell that? You walk up to a prospect and you say, oh, we have this great article about company A acquires company B. And they're going, I think I read that in Google, didn't I? Or, what else can you say? A acquires B. Well, yeah, and what? Well, A.
How that's going to impact your company.
That's how you would like. Of course, the article should do that, right? I would, we would hope, because if we try to sell it by saying it's something it's not, that they will see through that instantly. Okay, so here's this is an example from the dental publication. Is your practice being embezzled? No doctor thinks it's possible, but read this. And embezzlement at dental practices is on the rise. Here's what you can do to prevent it. Dear member, consider this. Embezzlement at a dental practice is it's always committed by staff the doctor trusts. You'll usually never suspect a thing until the loss is discovered. And then we go on and talk about, read the article, are you being embezzled? And we give them a number of reasons to read it. And after every reason it says, click to read the article, click to read the article, click to read the article. 4 exhortations to click and go to the article. This is really, I guess I would want to say, I think it's very elegant, but it's pretty hard sell. It's like, we are not taking anything for granted. You must read this article. It's so important. You're going to get this, and you're going to get this other, and you're going to get this third thing. Read it now. And again, remember, this goes to subscribers. They've already paid their money. They didn't ask you to send them an email. And I'll tell you, the irony is sometimes you got a 300-word teaser email for a 700-word article just to get them to go there. But if they read it, they might use it. And if they use it, they're going to renew. Here's the tax reduction letter. If you own an S corporation, my latest article contains news that should put a smile on your face. You see, the IRS has just ruled that S corp owners are safe from Obamacare penalties through 2015. That's right. Now you can deduct your health insurance premiums. And if you want to take advantage of Uncle Sam's newly declared largesse, here's some great advice. Read my article titled Last Minute News from the IRS, S corp, blah, 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 blah. So again, that same technique of selling every single article. By the way, the dental publication actually has about 8 articles also. They just do 1 article a week. Murray Bradford sends 2 emails a week to subscribers about the publication they've already bought. Why would he do that? This is Maggie. Yeah. So Maggie, I pulled this off of, these are just the subject lines for MDM. And when I first started working with MDM, they were pretty much hardcore news. A acquires B. And you start looking at the subject lines, and 3 ways distributors can create an effective reward program, 9 steps to win and keep accounts. I told this story on Monday about discovering this article that was the best read article every single quarter online. Always was number 1 or number 2. I was looking at their things, and the article was 3 years old. And it was, this is the distribution industry, and it was how to fight Grainger. Grainger was the biggest player in that world of distribution. How to fight Grainger and win. 3 years, quarter after quarter after quarter, the best read article. I went back to Tom Gale and I said, why don't you do more of those? Could we do more of those? And as Maggie reminded me, not only does MDM do more of that, but they hired the man who wrote that article, who's much more than a journalist. He's now the president of the company, but they brought in that sensibility. They completely upended the editorial formula. Despite dentistry's tightening economic trends, and this is not really a how-to, tried to make it sound a little like that, but it's really about tightening economic trends, the squeeze that's being put on dentists. You can take, studies and make them useful, not just by reporting the study results, but by telling people, here's what the facts mean to you. Here's what you can do about it. I think you got the point there. And again, if you give me your business cards, I'll send this to you, and then you you'll have all of this text, and you can show it to your marketing people, and you can show it to your editorial people, and use them as examples. That's the whole idea. Promoting your editorial to subscribers and prospects pays big time. In the first 7 months of mailing weekly teaser emails, the readership of the Finance for Dentists publication had increased by 73%. 73% increase in page views for editorial. Think about that. It's almost double. What if you could double the readership of your publication? What would that do to renewals? What do you think that would do to renewals? I wish I could tell you what it's done to theirs. It hasn't been long enough to get us a full cycle. I'll tell you next time we get together. But it has got to increase renewals. People reading and using your publication will increase renewals. Teaser emails have become the publication's most productive source of new trial subscriptions. What if you could add an element to your marketing that would all of a sudden surpass everything else you do to generate trial subscriptions, and it becomes your most effective source of new trials? How interested would you be in that? Tax reduction letter mails out hundreds of thousands of teaser emails monthly. By improving lead paragraphs, and this is where the contribution I made to that effort, by just improving the lead paragraphs, like the one about the revolving door, and one of the other ones that I showed you, problem solution, just by doing that, because when people click on the article, go to the article, they go to a page that has two boxes. One is, if you're a subscriber, you put in your credentials, and you go to the issue and the articles. If you, on the other, right next to it is, if you're a prospect, it's the same page, another box that says, if you're not a subscriber, get your free trial here. And in both cases, they go to the article. And what we found is that by juicing up the lead paragraph of every article, number one, it paid off that expensive email that we send them, copywriter written. It actually then fulfills that promise, and it entices the prospects to read it more avidly, read it more regularly, and then convert to pay, right? So it's selling that publication twice a week, selling it to trial subscribers and selling it to actual subscribers. So what's the takeaway, Greg? If you have strong editorial that consistently delivers on a powerful transformative brand promise, you will profit from aggressively promoting your editorial to subscribers and prospects. Does it qualify? Okay. This technique can work for any style of editorial, news, analysis, trends, how-to, in any industry, as long as the editorial is intended to make a difference in the subscriber's life. So it's not easy, but it sure pays off, and it'll pay off in so many ways. This strategy works to A, increase readership and engagement, and hence renewal rates, and B, trial subscriptions and conversions to pay. What's not to like? Any questions? Greg.
So I realize that one of the things you're saying here is that every article should sell itself. So the headline, beginning of the article should sell itself. I'm wondering, though, if there's a print analog to the email. So if you have a print magazine or a print newsletter, we only have email addresses for a small portion of our print subscribers.
Right.
So we can't do that with our print publications. So is there something else, a buck slip, a letter that can go along with the print publication that serves the same sort of function?
I think there is. I have never been presented, with that challenge, hey, help us solve that problem. But I think something like that, something that basically pre-sells the thing that they have in their hand in a summary way with but really snappy, powerful benefits on each one, I think that's a great idea. But to do something, and it wouldn't hurt to send to the 15% for whom you have email addresses as well. Yes, Terrence.
I was wondering about using the copywriter. We're really small. So I was thinking in terms of would it work if the author was the one who was writing? Well, the reason I thought that was that, just like with SEO, I mean, basically you're forcing them to think that way, and maybe on the next article, the lead's going to be more closely tied to what you're supposed to be trying to do.
I'll just give you my honest, if you can get that editor to write articles like the ones I showed you, Stop the Revolving Door, for example, and the one for Dennis, it would be enough, right? As we say at Passover, Dayenu, right? It would be enough. God led us from Egypt, Dayenu would be enough. Lead them to the promised land of powerful editorial. So I write the copy for the dentist's one, another guy, both small companies. They're both small companies. If you can, what would it be worth to you in renewal revenue to increase your readership by 73%? I think that's the way you look at it. Not, I'm a small company, I don't have any money, but am I willing to invest and do it as an experiment? Do it over 6 months. I gave you a 7-month number, 73% over 7 months. If you do that, you've invested, $3,000 or $4,000 maybe maximum, and all of a sudden renewal rates go up by 5%, 10%. You're going to pay for that many times over.
Our problem with getting someone else to write marketing for us is they don't understand our markets, and they wind up not understanding what we wrote about sometimes.
You can solve that problem. That shouldn't be a problem, with all respect.
I just want to confirm, actually, because we've been trying to get, so I agree with you, we've been trying to get our editors to write this way for years and years. Their brains just don't work that way. Some editors have a marketing brain, they do, but most don't. And we have the ones that don't. We have the don't kind. And I absolutely agree with you that to have someone else look at it who has a marketing brain is the only.
Yeah, and train them. Yes, Ed.
The advantage the copywriters have in this case is they're not creating anything from thin air. They're taking your editor's articles and just selling them. So they don't have to, all they have to do is not screw it up. And that's a much easier hurdle to clear. So I've had challenges with outside copywriters in covering niche topics, but this is served up much more pre-digested for those copywriters. So I guess you'll have success with this where you might have had trouble with other thinking.
But Terrence, I will say, I have never met an editor who was capable of writing this kind of copy. I mean, this is pretty polished stuff, and so I would not, what's that?
If they could, they'd be doing that.
Yeah, if they could, they'd be doing that and making twice as much money or more. Any other questions? Okay, guys, thank you so much. It was fun.